Apparently, Rita and James, there was an election, another election, Tasmanian election. I didn't stay up all night on this one, James. What do you think?
Well, yeah, so it does look like Jeremy Rockliff is claiming victory as the Liberal Premier of Tasmania, but it's not necessarily going to be all that clear-cut here because, number one, they've got a very strange sort of voting system. It's called, I think, Hare and Clark or Clark and Daw or something like that. But then he's going to have to wind up making some sort of coalition, either with Jacqui Lambi or something like that with the independents. This actually, though, like, I know it's Tasmania, but this does sort of throw into relief, though, a bigger problem that both parties have right now, which is that everybody now has to become increasingly reliant on these independent parties, which is, of course, driving politics in all sorts of weird ways. We're seeing this in Canberra now, where people like the Greens and David Pocock and people like that have all sorts of, outsized power to drive deals with the people who they are essentially putting into power. So I'm not really sure that this is a great situation that we're in now, Rowan and Rita, where independents and minor parties are able to basically hold these auctions for the things that they want for their fringe issues to make policy and form government.
Rita.
And it's an even a bigger issue than that because you look at it nationally, the unrepresentative swill, as Paul Keating called the Senate. We've got Tasmania having as many senators as New South Wales, despite having a much smaller population. And the Senate has not acted as the state's house for decades, if ever. So, again, it just throws up these sometimes fringe elements who have got enormous disproportionate power. So we do have a problem. The major parties are losing support. And I would argue with good reason. The major parties need to be far more clear in who they are and what they stand for, and that includes the Liberal National Coalition. If there was some clear policy ideas that set those two parties apart, I think they could see that party support grow. But at the moment, there's so much sameness, whether we're talking about state level or federal level, that I think that's what's attracting people to the minor parties and some of these independents.
Well, James, I think the technical term for this proportional voting system is actually the hair of the dog system. I think that's what it boils down to. Yeah, look, as Rita says, I'm not sure what the Libs in Tasmania stand for. Thank goodness we have Peter Dutton at least setting the way forward for the Federals, Rita. But let's go to Melbourne, Rita and James, where, as usual, lots to talk about down in Victoria. What a surprise. We'll be chatting shortly to Angela Jones, who's one of those who, along with Moira Deeming and Kelly-Jane Keane, has served a notice against John Pasuto. So we'll be chatting to her live in the studio shortly. But Rita, we had some more demonstrations in Melbourne yesterday.
Yes, and it got quite violent. There were arrests made. There were women who wanted to speak. It was another Let Women Speak type event. And of course, the trans activists turned up. They didn't want women to speak, and they tried to break through the police lines. The fact that we have to have police lines to protect women, talking about women's rights, is a problem in itself in this city. And the police have actually come out now. They had to use pepper spray. They had to make arrests. There's footage of all sorts of unrest and violence. And they've said they want these protesters to get a permit because they are wasting so much resources policing these people. Let's have a look at some of the scenes from yesterday. Ron, they've said since October 8, 7,500 police shifts have been needed to cover protests, more than 300 protests, mainly around the Middle Eastern conflict. We know the pro-Palestinian protesters are out there just about every weekend, but also women wanting to speak. So, and you've got the climate change nutters who are blocking roads and freeways. So at the moment, we're allowing this small group of agitators to cause enormous disruption, waste police resources, and there doesn't seem to be much accountability for most of it.